Are you concerned about all this corruption being misgendered as conspiracies? Well, don't you worry. Sit back, relax, and join in the conversation as we talk with today's guest. Welcome to another LSB Film Productions podcast with your host, Chris Brooks.
Hello and welcome to the channel. It's me, Chris Brooks, for another LSB Film podcast. I hope everyone's well. Today I'm joined with Dave and we're going to kind of talk about, you've seen the videos of all the bailiffs and all the threats that they give and just them being parasitic, basically. And so nicey is all well and good, but it doesn't necessarily attract the right outcome that people want. So we're kind of just going to shoot the breeze and discuss alternative ways of thinking outside the box and how to eradicate the problem to start with, rather than just documenting the problem as it unfolds. So welcome to the show, Dave.
Hi Chris, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Very well. So how did you get into all this?
Oh my God. Thanks for having us on the show, by the way. And all your guests and that have come and put all their effort in the last few years with your channel, mate. Fair play, and all power to you. What started me off, Chris, was for all of my life thus far. I'm sort of 57 now. I know I don't look it, but I've always sort of like questioned things and tried my hardest to do my own thing and walk my own path in life. At school at 16, I'd left prior for 3 months, and then my mum's, she knew I wasn't going to school, and she took me back to London, and my teachers are going, "You've got to come back, you've got exams, you're never going to get on in the world." And I said, "Well, look, I'm 16, I can smoke, I can go and see and have thingy with ladies. I guess really you don't get to tell me what to do anymore." And at that point, they all sort of looked at me and smiled. And I went on my merry way. And at 57, I've done quite well because I've walked my own path. Now, the thing that pricked my consciousness and what made me pay attention, what got my frequency to go, hang on a minute, I've got a bit of a problem here, was I've just mulled through life, marriages, children, houses, and not overly paid too much attention. But there was a situation quite a few years ago where HMRC, His Majesty's or Her Majesty at the time, Revenues and Customs, were really leaning on me. And it was a right horrible time period. And I didn't have a Scooby-Doo of anything external from the system. My mind was controlled by the system, very much so, and still is sometimes to a certain extent, because of what creeps into you, the feelings that creep into you when it kind of wants to come and play.
Well, you've had your whole life being programmed, so it's going to take a little bit of effort to completely eradicate that from your consciousness.
Yeah, and I don't think you ever really do get rid of it, because it's a deeply ingrained and entrenched thing. But so anyway, the Inland Revenue, I ended up going down to this building one day. Took my mother with me, strangely. And these two women, they marched me into this room. I sat at the end of a table. They had these big files. I was well documented, and they were throwing papers left, right, and centre and saying, "You sign these," seething like little wolves they were. And I said, "Whoa, calm yourself." And they said, "Well, you ain't leaving until you sign these." And I said, "Well, great. What we having for dinner?" So I was trying to make sort of fun of it, but they obviously didn't see the funny side. But what was going through my head was, what's driving these women to treat and talk to me this way? I'm a good man. I don't harm anybody. What's going on here? Anyway, I left that building. That situation unfolded. I had to give them a complete fortune. I didn't know anything at the time. But I said to these two women as I left, I said, "You know what? I don't understand how you get control over us. But when I do," I said, "because I'm switched on," I said, "I'm going to make it rain on you. I'm going to send this message out to so many people around the world that they really start questioning your validity and just who you are, and to defund you, because that's the only way we can stop these sort of people." So that was what flipped me and woke me up.
Well, that's good then. So was that just about paying taxes, your income tax?
Yeah. I've been plumbing and eating all my life, all different bits and bobs, and I've really had a good time. I've laughed all the way through it. I've had some really lovely people that I've worked for, colleagues I've worked with, and I have just had a boogie time. I'm always winding people up, and that's my life. And so that's what I did. And I don't, ever since the Inland Revenue did that to me, I've never filed a tax return since. And they don't even write to me anymore. They just don't, because they know it's fruitless. They know I'm not going to engage with them. And that's brilliant for me, because when the Polish people decided that they wanted to get rid of their communistic regime in 1989, they had a revolution. And what they did was, their people of their country, a certain group of them and lots of them, said, hang on, we're not happy with this communistic dictate. So what we're going to do, we're going to move away. We're going to create our own stuff. We're going to live our own lives. We're going to defund these. And that was what brought the downfall of their system. And it fell apart. And the Polish, what they did at the time in 1989, they said, when their people got their country back, they said, we must have a parliament that's based on morality first. Everything else down underneath that, money, whatever, business, but morality must be the kingpin in the grenade of our people. And that's why maybe the Polish prime minister, and we could all look at him and say, rightly or wrongly, won't have immigration, because there's been no raping, no pillaging, no stabbing in Poland. And he said the other day on a podcast, he said, if anyone tries to get in our country, my troops are trained to kill them, because my people will not tolerate this. And we need someone like him, maybe. I don't know.
No, absolutely. Well, we're not going to find that in bloody Queer Starmer, are we?
Well, see, there a lot of them is puppetry. We look at these people and we think that they're idols, gods. I lost my dad back in October, and I'll never forget Boris Johnson becoming the Prime Minister of this country. And my dad was going mental. He's going, oh, we've got Boris, we're saved. I said, Dad, have a word with yourself. Well, no, he's going to straighten things out. And then about a year or two later, he's on the phone going, he's got to go. He's got to go. And I said, Dad, do you remember your conversation about how Boris was to save? And he went, yeah, yeah. And I said, that's the trouble with the people of this country. We don't know who we are anymore. We don't know how to come together, and we don't know how to stop the enemy that's within.
100%.
And we don't.
See, I always said that Boris made quite a good London mayor.
Yeah.
He was quite charismatic, wasn't he? And just goofy. Yeah. But that was all part of his plan, because he said in an interview ages ago, he said the idea is that he made so many guffs and bluffs and an arse of himself that just became Boris. So when he did actually make a proper bad decision and stuff, it's just Boris being Boris.
He was a court jester. Jester.
Yeah, absolutely.
Court jester. And the court jester was the cleverest man in. He was cleverer than the king, the queen, the court jester. If he wasn't switched on and worldly wise, he'd probably get his head chopped off. And the court jester entertained everyone, kept them laughing. So that's basically what Boris was. But they're all working for their own featherings of their own nest, and they've got a political army, and that's in the police. Now, the police, when they were formed by Peel years ago, Peel had a really big time and trouble trying to get it through, because all of them at the time said, we've got to be really careful that this don't turn into a police state. And this is where we are today. And he was pushed back on several occasions until finally the Peelers become the Metropolitan Police. And that's what they've become. The police are a politicized group of people. They're like King John's men going out, rounding up in villages and robbing from people. But that all comes at a cost to them, because at some point, when people can't live in homes, when they can't have food and they can't keep their kids, and their kids are being taken, there will be a pushback. There has to be. Nature dictates that there's got to be a pushback, right?
Yeah. Yeah, a civil war beckons. But then is that what they want?
Could be.
So they can bring in the big guns.
Yeah, it could be. I mean, what I think, like what I mentioned about the Polish people. The Polish got to a point within that time period, not long ago, 1989. It's
Mm.
not a long time ago. I grew up in the 80s and I had a fabulous time. It was really
I would have
good.
been 9 years old
Um,
then.
oh, it was brilliant. It was the best years I think I've ever had was the 80s. But the Polish decided we're not going to sponsor this. We're going to start our own thing. So what they did was they focused their consciousness on creating like a utopia, a heaven on earth, what they wanted to see as a group of people, and they basically turned their back on the communist dictators, and they fell apart because these had moved on consciously.
Mm.
I've got a friend of mine. I'm not going to mention his name, but he is a massive manifester. He's got his brain to a point where it's super fast, and he's nothing ever bad happens to him. He can deal with anybody on the phone in about 30 seconds. He can get mortgages disappear. He can get his credit file disappear, and he only uses a phone. But he said to me something earlier. He said, Dave, I can, he said, and I mean, you can make of this what you like, and so can the audience. He said, but I'm manifesting that this year, that the King of England that is there at the moment is going to be no longer, and there's going to be a new thing in its place. I said, well, in an ideal world, that's great. We've got to wait to see that if that does manifest. But I think the vibration of the people of this country now, they all know something's wrong. They're all looking around going, why is this happening? Why is all these murders? Why is these raping? Why is all these knife attacks? And we're getting a little bit on edge with it. And that possibly needed to happen because when we're all at home having a lovely time and no one's unsettled, no one takes any notice, Chris.
No, it's the I'm all right, Jack mentality.
Yeah. So what I've noticed is over the years I've been challenging also not challenging, but writing and speaking to people over the phone from government agencies and everything. And I've like I said to you before the show, I've done a couple of things. I've used politeness and the law and basically just got walked all over. And then there was a couple of instances where I used my intent and I put my intent into whoever it was I was talking to over the phone saying, basically, if you come near me and you don't have the law on your side, I'm going to hurt you and you might hurt me. But I don't care. I'm not a slave. I'm not living as a prisoner in this country. Um, and in that both them instances in which I've done that, they disappeared. One was in 2013 with a guy that wanted some cash as an enforcement officer to HMCTS court. We're all fiction. They're all fictions.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, if you come near me, either I'm going to get hurt or you're going to hurt. You're going to get hurt, but I'm not. I'm not your. Basically, I'm not your. I'm not yours. You don't own me. I've never seen him to this day. He's never, ever, ever come in, and he's out of time now. Obviously, it's 12 years on.
That's good. Yeah, that is awesome. So what kind of solutions do you see then with regards to? Because, like we said, you've got Mark Bannerman, who's really good at reporting on what's going on. You've got other channels like audits. Is it AB audits? Do similar things, but they're just documenting the process which is unfolding in front of people's eyes. How do we get to a point where we can just make that go away?
Great question. Great question. I think thinking out loud and just creating a scenario and what comes to my head. I think that if people can focus their point of awareness and their attention in what they plan to do when big groups of people come together, we'll look at the evictions and the house take backs, for instance. Someone shared a video yesterday where they've arrested two policemen, and that this could all be a little bit futile. But if the people that are getting together because they think that these house evictions and that is completely moralistically wrong, and it is, we do have a fascist or a communistic dictate which is really gripped this country. But if they focus their point of attention on not actually maybe going to the house, but let's say there's a collection company that's saying we're coming on the 25th, we're going to take your house and all your belongings. So this company will be emanating from somewhere, from an industrial estate, a high street. They're going to have an office. They're going to have a base. If the people can flip their consciousness and say, well, actually, on this particular day, we're going to go to that bailiff office and we're going to go down there with the law on our side and we're going to fill that office. We're going to basically sit in there all day with our sandwiches and our coffee and our cans of Coke, whatever's your floats your boat. And we're not going to move until these people, we've basically not put the fear in them, but we've now reversed that psychological impact. We're not at the house waiting for them to take it. We've actually brought it to their doorstep. And I grew up in South East London, and a lot of my family, I can remember them saying, don't shit on your own doorstep. So the minute that these people feel that pressure, an instance, a friend of mine, Toby, bless him, he's recently lost his house, and we all feel for it. It's a shocking situation. He went down to this company and said, look, I need my stuff back. And he was told to get out, and it's horrible what these people do. These corporations is absolutely disgusting. But let's say he'd gone there with 200 people, and they'd all gone in there at the same time and said, right, his stuff back now. I can guarantee you that everybody in that building would have been running around to get his stuff, because the silence of having 200 people surround you and say, you're going to do this, mate. You could be Mike Tyson. You ain't fighting that.
No.
So we've got to flip this, Chris. We've got to flip the mentality.
Safety in numbers and all that. So I know Thetford's got their own like debt collector emergency. So if someone's faced with a enforcement officer, they just ring this number and then a load of people go around there.
Yeah.
Which is good. We need more of that. But I also think educating the people is really important. You know, I don't know. I mean, I personally, I'm not versed enough in it to do so. But I know there are plenty of people like the great Bob Says and Mark Taylor in Thetford. You know, I know that maybe like hiring a hall and inviting people in just to learn about what the system really is and how it really works. Because I think education is probably key in the respect that most fear comes from not being educated. So you're fearful of the lie that you've been told for years and years and years.
Yeah.
Where if you learn the truth, then I would imagine an element of fear would also subside.
There's a little old saying, and it is, the sword is mightier than the pen. But what if you pick both up at the same time and you let your mind control both? That my mate told me this morning, and I was like, wow, that's powerful, because now you've got the sword, which is the element of your intent, and now you've got the pen which you're bringing. So it's neither either, it's both. We've got to reverse the psychology. The internet has given us some great gifts and some great tools, even down to the fact that up until probably 10, 15 years ago, the mainstream media, the newspapers, the radio and the TV controlled everybody's daily bread. It controlled what was going on out there in the world. And it was your view. It was, you see that and you thought, I mean, I grew up in the 80s as a teenager, and I can remember the TV ending at 10 o'clock. The national anthem would play, and my dad would say, come on, stand up. And we'd all, and I'm stood there thinking, what are we standing up for? I don't know this Queen. But if I didn't, he'd give me a clip round the ear. So, but now we're in a position where we've got this internet, we've got all these great platforms. You know, your show's amazing. Richard Vogues, all these other people that are putting this information out, not just on YouTube, but all over. And people can get this information just like that. And now they're getting a different take on life. They're watching shows like Joe Rogan with President Trump saying, I'm going to release this file, I'm going to release that. And now it's blowing their minds. They're like, wow. So with I think news and information can travel a lot quicker by using these mediums than probably ever traveling up and around the country. It is great to come together. It is great to see everybody in the flesh and give them a hug and say, you know, we absolutely do need to unite. Knowledge is key. Knowledge is key. Knowing and understanding the fundamentals of the law is absolutely what is needed. But we go back to the scenario of when we was kids. We used to play that game where it was paper, scissors, whatever.
Rock, paper, scissors.
Exactly. So we're coming with paper, but the police are coming with guns. So you're not going to win that. So you've got to be, by uniting, it's great, it's fabulous, it is fabulous. But at the end of the day, we've got to start thinking outside the box, or it's never going to change. But we are at a certain point in history. Like I spoke to you yesterday before we did this show today, that I've now got at my disposal the ability. If anyone says to you now, you've got the ability, Chris, I've got a problem, you can get a response that covers every element of the law, from God's law to the secular law, which is societal law, to the law of financial instruments, to the law of commerce, whatever. And you can put these things together, bash it out there. And there are Trojan horses which we can use. Like everyone's say, I'll give you a scenario. We're all battling council tax. Is it lawful? Isn't it lawful? People challenge it, going down screaming at buildings. And basically, when you go down screaming at these magistrates and that, you're screaming at yourself. You really are screaming at yourself, because the judge is playing you and you're playing the judge. We are all just one in this world. So why would you want to go down there and scream at these people when you can do something so simple as like write to the council, special delivery, registered post or email where it does the red thing, so you know you've got proof of receipt, where it says, my right of erasure, my right to be forgotten. And you get them to literally remove all data on you. And then guess what? The council can never write to you again. And the council give the power of attorney to the police. Yeah. And then it goes round there. And then the police give the power of attorney to the CPS and then the courts. And then it goes back to the council again, because I think the council are the people that basically collate all this information on us. So if we go to the source and we cut it off of its root, it can never grow. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And we can tie these up now. We can literally tie these up. So if we can roll this out privately, we could do it publicly. You know, we've got private members associations. They're very powerful. Private associations, the Masonics. There's never been, I don't know to date that there's ever been a Masonic lodge that's ever been raided by the police. Why? Because they're private members associations.
So talk to me a little bit about private members association and what is the gist of them?
So private members associations, anybody watching this can just go on Google, which is a great tool, or whichever engine you want to use, DuckDuckGo, you name it. You can just type in private members associations, and private members associations are outside of statutory jurisdiction. And in essence, a council is just a PMA or a private association. And let's say the council send you their statement at the beginning of April's Fool's Day, Happy New Year. They send you that. That is you agreeing, I think, in cutting this to really simplistic terms, is you agreeing to be part of their members association. So if that's the case, you start your own members associations. You can have one member, you can have 3 members, you can have 1,000 members. Your PMA is protected by its incorporation and its constitution. You sign a non-disclosure and you cannot talk about it in the public unless you're in agreement with the members and they say it's okay. Looking at it, I'll give you a scenario, a boxing match. You could have Lennox Lewis fighting Mike Tyson and it could be a big stage and they're all getting massive purses for it. But what will happen in that arena, let's say Mike Tyson kills Tyson Fury, does Mike Tyson get done for murder? No, he doesn't, because they've agreed privately that whatever happens, they accept the terms and conditions that come with it. So that's why you've never seen a boxer go to prison for murder, because it's all done in the private. And we have a right to be private. You know, if I'll go down the road today in my motor and I say, see you at the end of the road in your car, and accidentally I'll smash your front wing in, I can get out and go, cool, that looks expensive. Nice to meet you, Chris. Do us a favour. Let us know what it costs and I'll cover the cost. I'll pay for it. If not, we'll use the insurance companies. So we've always had this ability to be private. We do. Land registry, you go to land registry, say we're in a private members association, we've got our own articles of association, our own constitution, and remove the title from your thing. And now you're really putting them in a sticky wicket, because we're supposed to be, as people, Chris, we're supposed to be private.
So has that been achieved then?
There are people. Funnily enough, I was due to do a conference call, which would probably be put out probably on YouTube, with a guy called Zev at Warrior at Law. We've not managed to tie that up yet. He's in Australia. I'm in England. But him and his people, I can't say too much about it, but they say they've got a PMA that's so watertight that's it. And we've got a PMA. And recently, my friend, who is the trustee for the PMA, he's had one of the top law firms in the world ringing him and writing to him, because they're actually shitting a brick now, because they know that it's outside of statutory jurisdiction.
That's cool.
It's powerful.
Yeah.
It's a bit like the limited company making it dormant, but on steroids.
Okay.
Because the limited company, all well and good, we've got one, we're getting rid of it soon when it comes up for renewal. Boris Johnson, limited. Rishi Sunak, limited. They're all limited companies. And if I was to pay £5,000, I could go and sit in Parliament, because I've got a dormant limited company that it is in the legal name, but it's still in the public domain, isn't it? It's still in the public domain. We've got the capabilities and the technology now, and we're at a point in 2025 where I think we can have these neo moments. We can sit, have coffee, keep the agents at bay by just putting our hands out, because we've been fighting all these agents for years, but now I think we're going to start seeing the calm. And I hope and I pray that everybody out there that watches your podcast does remain calm, because I think we're in very exciting times, Chris. I really do.
Yeah, everyone that I speak to seems to say that 2025 is going to be a very interesting year.
Oh, big time. Big time.
Yeah.
I mean, there was an article, actually, that this is really interesting, because the BBC, whatever that, spit the dog. Spit the dog. Whatever that means to you, right? The BBC is the BBC. But they've just released an article a couple of days ago with a woman called Lindsay. Now, Lindsay, she'd moved house, and all of a sudden she was presented with this big bill for this energy. And she's like, hang on a minute. She contacted Ofgem, and Ofgem said, well, did you give a meter readings? And she said, no, we've not been there. And they said, well, that's called back billing. Back billing, if you research it, if you don't give your energy supplier meter readings, and they can't take meter readings, they're working just on an estimation. After every 12 months of that, they have to let that, whatever it's accrued, go, and it's called back billing. And it's regulated by Ofgem, and Ofgem banned that back billing in 2018. So all these energy companies that keep rolling the debt, and putting people into hardship, and boy, people are in hardship. 60,000 people have been writing to Ofgem saying, can't pay. I mean, it's ludicrous. The energy companies are the biggest thorn in anybody's side in this country right now. They are out of control.
And the fact that they're allowed to get away with it as well.
I've heard, I'm not sure how true this was, but when Gordon Brown did what he did back 2008, I couldn't stand that guy, man. I used to throw apples at the TV. Dented the screen a few times. But there's good evidence that we've got that suggested that energy companies were given pretty much free rein, because they apparently 50 big corporations, huge, massive corporations, funded government. It's very mafia-like, right? And they were given free rein now to do what they like. And then this makes sense. This stacks up, because now energy companies are purporting to be courts. They send stuff out, fill this format, it's going to court, and by Jove, we've got a warrant. And this is all being produced by these energy companies, who are just limited companies the enforcement agents that come out and say, I'm higher court enforcement, read the print at the bottom of their paperwork. There's a limited company number there. They're just limited companies masquerading as government. Well, the Clearfield Doctrine clearly states if your government acts as a corporation, they got no standing. And this is where we're at. But they've got
United Kingdom is a limited company.
There you go. There you go. They've got the ability to turn up. They summons the police. The police, oh, we're here, and they assist. And the policeman. I'm going to talk to you in a second about a local guy that I've got who's just left the Met Police, and the story's really tragic. But the police bolster them. The police go, yeah, whatever. They pay no attention to what you're saying or what you've sent. They don't care. They're just here to fulfill a job. They're here to swindle you. And that's it. And that's shame on the police. That really is shame on the police. The police should be out protecting little old Mrs. Smith from a mugger. They should be making sure no kids get taken unless they should be protecting us. Their job is to protect life, liberty, and property. That's it. They were never mandated to get involved.
Common law police.
Exactly. Now, I've got someone local that is that has been released from the Metropolitan Police for something so stupid that this individual has tried to take their own life. They can't come to terms with the shame element to it. And, you know, we spoke to them on many occasions. They're getting better and better and better every day. But they've turned around and said to me, you know, I worked for the Met for 15 plus years, and now I'm out and I've been ostracized. I've realised I was working for the devil, and I'm like, well, there you go, there you go. It's very dark, and that's their Achilles heel, Chris. With all these corporations, they're so dark in their mythology and in their mentality and the things they do. They won't see the hornet's nest when it's rising against them. And where have they got to run in this country? What, they're going abroad? They're going to try and flee. Where are they going?
Yeah.
Because at some point, the people are going to go, yeah, we've had enough, right?
Well, I'd like to think so.
Yeah. Your channel's grown. You must get lots of feedback. You must be seeing people comment saying, you know, Chris, we agree. We've got to do this. We're willing to cut. You must feel it in yourself that there's something manifesting, right?
Yeah, definitely. I would still say my channel's quite heavily restricted, though.
Over the target, expect flack. But as long as you're sensible and you're not going to get banned. Now, I had a big YouTube channel for the time period I had it, and I shared a certain video with something that was happening to a young girl with a taxi driver, and they took the channel down and said it goes against our community standards. And I thought, you know what? If I've shared it and people can see it and it's had a positive effect, so what? I don't care. I can't believe how these people that say it goes against and they want to silence us, they can't see the bigger picture. They can't see that we're actually trying to get our country back to some greatness.
Well, the whole point of, or the whole reason why my YouTube channel was demonetized, the excuse was for uploading hateful and harmful content.
They've got to have a good look at themselves because, you know, we've had 2 Welsh policemen the other day. They've been attacked by whoever. I'm not going to get into the demographic of who the group of people are, but they've been attacked, and I'm not sure whether they're in hospital or not. And we're going to see this happen more and more. I think 5 people or 5 kids were attacked yesterday and harmed. Mate, you know, where is the morality of the people of this country? Why are they allowing this to go on? You know, one of my favourite films, I don't know if you've ever seen it. It was a 60s film. It was made by Pathé, I think, and it was called Time Machine. And in this thing, this guy sits in his chair and he pushes the lever forward and backwards, and this big disc spins on the back, and it goes backwards and forwards in time. So the beginning of the film is all him going back to prehistoric times and the Big Bang and all that. And then he goes forward to, I think it might have been 2025. Don't quote me on this. This could be a bit crystal bally. But it goes forward And what he gets to is a time and a place where he meets all these beautiful young people, immaculately dressed, all pretty much wearing the same dress, blonde hair, dark hair, immaculate, men and women. Look like Bucks Fizz, the group Bucks Fizz. And he's chatting with them. And then all of a sudden, these big sirens go, they go, "Rrrr," and they get transfixed, and then they all start walking as if they're in a trance into this building where the doors open, and these people that are pulling them in are called the Morlocks, and then the doors shut when enough people have gone in, and then the sirens stop, and then they all shake their head and go, oh, and they get on with what they're doing. Now this guy in the time machine, he's there going, what's going on? What are you doing? And he's shaking them, saying, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. And they're like, no. So in the end of the film, he takes it upon himself, one man, the time machine man, to go and bash the Morlocks up. They're all their underground stuff. He smashes it all up, blows it all up. They collapse, they all die, and then the people free themselves. And I actually think you should go and watch the end scene of the time machine, because I think we're in that time. I really do.
What's the film where they're all in the street and they all just start falling over, dropping down dead, and cars going into buildings, and they're all just slumped?
Oh,
I've seen it on social media. Just
where
that
the guy's
clip.
a pilot.
Sorry?
Is it where they come out of their clothes and they disappear?
I don't know. It's just that one clip that I've seen out of this movie, and it's just like, imagine just being in London, for example, and all of a sudden, just like that, everyone just starts going.
Yeah. That's a fairly new movie, right?
I don't know. Like I say, I've only seen that one clip on like Facebook as a short, and trying to say, oh, do you think this is like when they turn 5G on? So I don't know. I don't know what the film is, but I would be quite interested to find out what that film is, because
I've seen that clip. I have seen that clip. Now, what's really interesting is years ago when I first sort of come to grips with this and started speaking out, I used to drive people mental. I literally would try and drum it in them. And I remember seeing this one woman, I was fitting a boiler for her, and all the colour had drained out her face. I said, you're not enjoying this, are you? She went, you're full on, Dave. She said, she said, you're like, you're militant with it. I went, all right, leave it. And from that point on, I only ever talked about stuff like this with people that kind of got that frequency and they wanted to hear these stories. But what's really interested in now for the last few years is wherever I go, high streets, wherever I go, I'm hearing people going, here, my mate's a conspiracy now. He's talking about this spraying the skies and that. So I literally sit there and my cup overflows. I'm brimming. I'm like, this is amazing. We are really in a good place because everybody's paying attention. My neighbours, his business partner, he's 28. He's a tinfoil hatter. And he's there the other day saying, will you tile my bathroom? I said, yeah, of course. And he said, they're spraying us, they're putting this in our food. I'm like, and I just burst out laughing. He said, what are you laughing at? I said, mate, I've been in this for 15 years. There's not a lot really you could tell me about. I said, but what I love is the fact that the youngsters are on this now and you're all getting it. It's mate, we are in an amazing time. We are creating heaven on earth. Make no mistake about it.
Well, I certainly hope so.
Yeah. And if you create something, Chris, right, and you put something together that is so fabulous and so wonderful, people grow their own food, their kids are healthy, you've got your house is in no one can take it, and now you're living the dream. What you'll do, I mean, even the scripture says, build it, show them, and they will follow. And that's what we've got to do. We've got to build this so that others can see it, of all age groups, the elderly, the young, and go, I like what that man's doing. I like his life. I like the roundness of him. I like his vibration. I want to be like that. And now we all start moving away from the dark, don't we?
Absolutely, yeah.
That's what we're doing. That's what we're doing. Amazing.
No, that's awesome. Well, I like I say, I genuinely hope that there is some light at the end of the tunnel. I mean, I don't for 1 minute buy into Trump and any of those. That they're all. No, Mark, my friend Taylor, he will old Scouse. He's very much he is all for like the white hats and they're what we're seeing now is a show, and they've got to play this show out to wake people up, and all the bad people probably aren't even here anymore. And I just don't know how much of that's true.
It's like politicians are politicians. An old mate of mine that was in CID years ago, he said to me, "How do you know when a politician's lying?" I said, "I don't know, Bob."
Because their lips move.
Their lips are moving, and I wet myself with laughter. It was so funny, and it's true. So if we focus on all what goes on in the world, we know it goes on, and I find it hard myself to not pay attention. Like I see 5 people get stabbed and they've all been injured. That really hurts me spiritually. And I hear that 2 policemen have been stabbed or they're in hospital, and that really hurts me too, because we're all the same. They only put a uniform on. There's still men and women in them uniforms, and they're just doing what they're told, but it's harming them now. And I don't want that to happen to them as much as I don't want it to happen to anybody else. But when we step into that, this is happening, Trump's doing this, and whatever Trump does, if it's good, it's bad, whatever's going to come is going to come. If we can start shifting our consciousness and moving away from that and start saying, well, actually, I know all that's going on over there and that can crack on, but I'm actually going to get my life and my foundations built on solid ground. So hopefully no one with a gun or a badge or a taser stick can come near me. I'm going to have my Neo moment, and I'm going to try and bring people with me, and we're going over into this light. We're building our lives. Look, there's a guy he pops up on my Facebook feed. They've got a small, what you probably would call a community, although that being a communistic word, but they've got their own land. They're growing their own food. They've got their own livestock. They're making their own milk, their own cheese. They don't need anything from the outside system. They don't need it, because with what they produce, I guess they could sell a bit. They're living off grid. They've got their own solar. They've got their own log burners. They're living exactly the same way as we do. A classic example is a guy that did a few podcasts with Vobes. Now, I'd done a Richard Vobes thing. I weren't overly feeling great that day, but others went and spoke about the limited company a lot greater than I did on another podcast, Hornsey wouldn't that, and I'm grateful that they did. And I think Richard might have got a bit more of a better handle on it. But the Woodlander, this guy has come out. He lives in the woods. He's got 150 chickens. He's screaming out to people saying, look, if you've had enough of this, come and join us. Come and join us. Come and live our way. Come. So all these people that are doing this are saying, we're over here. We're living the dream. We're living the sunshine. We're growing our own food. We've got our own animals. We're living sustainably for ourselves. Come and join us. Follow our example. So if we all start following these people and we leave this dark system behind and we stop funding it, guess what? That breaks. This continues, and that's where we've got to get our headspace. We've got to think outside the box, Chris. We really have to.
No, yeah, I agree. It's just taking that leap, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's not. If so, we think of this because I'll give you for instance. We've got lots of different groups of people in this country. We've got the Sikhs, we've got the Muslims, we've got the Christians, we've got the Hindus, we've got the all sorts. Now the Sikhs. Well, and they're a beautiful people, mate. I know so many Sikh people that I tell you, they're awesome. Their handshakes, they're so warm, they're so friendly, so lovely. But they have a sense of togetherness. They will go to the weddings and get the bride and groom sorted, and they get them an house. And this is how they keep themselves together. The Muslim people, the Muslims, let's say a policeman. Arrests a young Muslim for whatever, and if it's just something stupid, what will happen is the police are beholden, and this is why the police are so scared of the Muslims, because the police will hold this individual. Most police stations have probably got no more than 20 people in them all around the country. They give this impression they're this big thing. They ain't. They're not. So they're holding him in there. Next time they go to prayer, the imam gets a whiff of that they're holding this kid for whatever. So the imam will go, right, all right. He'd go down the police station and he'd say, why are you holding him? And they say, well, this and that. So, well, no, that's not really good enough. You're not supposed to be doing this. Right. If you don't let him go, the next time I call to prayer, there's about 50,000 that come and listen to me. I'm going to bring them all down here and we're just going to take him anyway. And that's why the police are scared of them. If we, the people, got out of this singular mentality of like, well, it's a big leap, I guess individually for yourself and your wife and your kids, whatever, it is. But if you get together with lots of others and say, do you know what? Let's go and get a bit of land. There's 30 of us, 30 families going. Let's go. We've got carpenters, plumbers, midwives. Just get over there, get going with it. And do you know what? Even if you fail, you can say you tried.
Yeah.
Do you see what I'm saying? We're all too scared, and we're basically prisoners in our own homes. We let these people terrorize us, don't we?
No, we do, yeah.
You know, we really do let them terrorize us, and we've got to stop that, and we've got to get ourselves into a position. You're going to start using this platform I sent you yesterday into this search engine to start finding some real earthy good answers to the things that you've got going on in your life, and you're going to smile when it actually starts revealing these things to you, because you're going to be thinking, well, who's designed this? Who's giving us this greatness? Because I'll tell you, it's lifted me the last 3 or 4 days. I'm smiling now because I know that we've got the tools in 2025. We've got the people that are prepared to get off their bums and to go out and do things. But like I said a little while ago, if someone's facing eviction, now I went to one years ago, there was 800 people of us in Colton Crescent, right, up in Diddy country, Nottingham, for Tom Crawford and Sue Crawford. And we stopped everybody, the police. The only thing they could do was put a helicopter up. And we thought, this is great. I met so many wonderful. This is over 10 years ago, easily over 10 years ago. Met so many wonderful people. But yeah, the minute we left, 3 weeks later, they come, kick Sue and Tom out the house, and the elderly dog they put on the front garden, on the front lawn, and the dog died through the trauma. And not one of these policemen shot an eyelid, didn't register. The bailiff just laughed. And they threw all of their possessions and belongings in a skip. That's how much they care about us, Chris.
Mm.
But if we focus our point of attention on, rather than focus on the house, let's maybe, with the law on our side, peaceably go and start putting the pressure on them in mass numbers of people. Listen, let me tell you, as a director of a limited company that's dormant, if I'm sat at home and let's say I made that company active and I got into whatever, and then I started employing people and I'll say, right, okay, I've got away with that. I'm going to send my people there today, purporting to be bailiffs with my company paperwork. They're going to take houses, take whatever. I'm having a swindle. I'm having a lovely time. I'm sitting here. I'm profiting from it. Everything's rosy. However, the day that 400 people turn up at my front gate and say, here, Dave, we know what you're doing. And if you don't wind your neck in and stand down today, we're coming back and we're going to take your house. We're going to throw you out on the street and you're never going back in there. All of a sudden, I'm on here going, I'm winding the company up. I'm sacking all my employees and they're gone. That's what we've got to do. We have to, I've been in this a long time, and time means nothing in this, by the way, because I've got a mate of mine that in the last 4 or 5 years is far more advanced than me. My skill, if it is a skill, has always been to communicate with people and try and unite people and to bring common sense to the table and say, if we all just unite in a commonality and use our brains instead of our brawn, then we might just get somewhere, bro.
No, absolutely. And I think that's a good place to wrap up.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for your time today. I've really enjoyed it.
Bless you.
Yeah. I just hope with everything that I have that 2025 is going to be the year where we break through all the brick walls. But we will keep in contact, and I dare say we shall do this again.
Brilliant.
Yeah, thank you very much. I hope everyone watching this has enjoyed it. Let me know what you think in the comments as always. And until next time, take care of yourselves. Bye for now.